The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, yeah. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our tonight's webinars, which we are conducting in online lah. So, very happy that having you all to attend for today's sessions, and we are also very honored to invite very experienced and also having I think that can provide some of the info and sharing as the topics that we have been seeing with all of you okay, about the Thailand's blue chip stocks. And of course, it's go through the Singapore exchange. Okay, so before I start to list our speakers to everyone, and let me have some introduce to all of some of newcomers about our companies. Okay, so first of all, this presentation has not been reviewed by the Security Commission Malaysia and is provides solely for general information and learning purposes and does not constitute any recommendations. Okay, so we are not liable for losses arise based on this information. Okay, so kindly seek for advice from qualified advisor or dealer before making any investment decisions. Okay, you're able to reach all of the dealers all around to Philip Capital as well. Okay, so okay, a little bit of introductions about Philip Capitals. At first, we actually cooperate in 1995, and our mother company, which is from Singapore, Philips Capital Holdings Sdn Bhd. Okay, so formerly we have been known as Philip Capitals, and now we have changed our names to Philip Capitals Sdn Bhd after we have acquired for the security businesses. Okay, so we are basically a trading participants of Bursa Malaysia Derivative Berhad. We also is participants organizations of Bursa Malaysia Security Berhad, and we are also the holder of Capital Market Service License, okay, which is a CMSL. So from the map here, you're able to see the headquarters they're located in KL. Other than that, we are actually having like another of 11 Philip Investor Centers across Malaysia, one research and development centers. Okay, so from here you're able to see there is branches all around Malaysia, including Alostar, Penang, Damansara, Melaka, JB, Klang, or even KK at Sabah or Sarawak, which is Cebu and Kuching. So we also would like to take this chance to thanks with all of our existing clients where supporting Philips for over few years that we have been winning a different kind of awards has been shown in this slideshow. Okay, so this would be the coverage of our globals, which covers by Philip Capitals, and you're able to see these footprints at different 15 different countries, as you can see in this map. Okay, so in Philip Capitals, we are also covering products listed and numerous of exchange, such as Singapore Exchange, the popular of CME, CBOT, NYMEX, Hong Kong Exchange, and more. So basically, with our global coverage, client can easily access to both local and foreign products within the same platforms that we offer. So why you should choose Philips? Basically, for our products, first, as we have mentioned, we are providing futures, CFD, and equities. Okay, so we are covering three big types of products, and we are actually the awards winning brokers. We're providing 24 hours of brokering execution support, which is very important for all of the investor, and we're having our advisory service as well. And we're also providing and sending all of the latest markets news, wide array of products that you're able to find as I have been explained just now. And also we are providing online account openings, so you no need to use too much of the form. Okay, so we're also actually providing some of the free one-to-one coaching sessions for you all to learn with Philip if you are new. And we are providing free seminars and webinars regularly, just like tonight. Have different topics, and we also provide free account openings for everyone. Okay? So about free one-to-one coaching sessions is about 4 types of the topics that if you are interested, you can approach with us. One is the introductions for futures stocks or CFD, and then we will provide some of the product knowledge if you have specifics of the requirements. And we have platform coachings when it comes to trading platforms that we are provided, which is free platform. And we also have some of the analysis towards the chart systems. Okay, so a little bit of heads up about the promotions. which is the Discover and Trade Singapore Stocks to Win an iPad Pro and more, which will be related with the latest of the sharings from our speakers. Okay, so after this, okay, if you're interested to online open account, of course, you can scan the QR code. So right now, let's with us welcome our speakers, Gerard Wong, which is CEOs and the founder of the Bean Sprouts. Yeah, hello, Gerard.
Hello, thanks so
Hi,
much,
good
and
evening.
good to have everyone here with us tonight. It's a Friday evening. I hope everyone would have your dinner already, but if you're still having your dinner, feel free to sit back and relax. And like what has been shared earlier, tonight's sharing is really to be able for us to be able to learn. So over the next 1 hour or so, we will look at Singapore depository receipts and learn a bit more about what are the opportunities that are made from Singapore depository receipts. Okay, so without further ado, I will start by sharing my slides and talk a bit about what we see as the opportunities coming through from Thailand and the opportunities that we can also tap as investors into Singapore depository receipt. Okay, so to start with, as an introduction about what Beansprout is, in case you are new towards Beansprout, what we do is to be able to help you make better financial decisions. And this is actually done through providing different insights about Singapore stocks, ETF, bonds, and REITs. If you find today's session helpful, do visit our website, growbeansprout.com, where you'll be able to get further insights. Okay, a bit of introduction about myself. My name is Gerald. I'm the founder of Beansprout. And before I started Beansprout about 2 years ago, I was an equity analyst. And what I was doing was looking at the Singapore market and helping to identify opportunities in the Singapore market. So this is something that I still continue to enjoy doing, which is what I hope to be able to share tonight, looking specifically at the opportunities that are presented by Thailand. Okay, as a further disclaimer, today's sharing is for education purposes only. It should not be seen to be financial advice in any way. Okay, so what we'll cover tonight will be a few topics. Number one, Singapore depository receipts, what they are. Next, we'll go and have a discussion about the economic outlook of Thailand. Next, we'll go specifically into understanding what are the opportunities from the Thai blue chip stock. And then last but not least, we'll open up to Q&A. Okay, so before I actually go on further, I'll just warm everyone up and just get your feedback. Are you able to hear me loud and clear? If you are able to, please say yes. And if you are not able to hear me, please indicate so that we can make the necessary adjustment. Okay, I see some response coming in. So yes, seems like people can hear me quite clear. So I will continue by sharing more about what Singapore depository receipts are, as well as the opportunities that are brought by it. Okay. Okay, so we'll start by a quick introduction about Singapore depository receipts. If I were to look at the opportunities that are brought by it, effectively what this offers investors would be the ability to actually invest in 3 Thai blue chip stocks in the Singapore market. Okay, your question would probably be, what are these 3 Thai blue chip stocks? And they will effectively be, number one, CPO. What CPO is it is the largest operator of convenience stores in Thailand, and this will be under the ticker TCPD. Okay, next we have Airports of Thailand, AOT. and this will effectively be the largest operator of the airport services within the Thai market. Next, we also have got PTTEP. For those who are interested in the oil and gas sector, then this is potentially
Hi,
a
sorry,
name
Jared.
that investors might.
Some heads up. I think the slides for the logo doesn't appear out.
Okay, let me try to share again.
Yeah, I able to see the slide, but yeah, the logo I think is behind it or what. Yeah. Now I'm able to see the. Just now I'm able to see already.
Yeah, okay, let me try again.
Yeah. Now I'm able to see your PDF. Yeah, so for the audience, can I wait for a few seconds just for some technical adjustment, yeah? Okay, yeah, now able to see the SDR trading name. Yeah, correct. Okay, now everything is good.
Okay, so just to share again, the SDR, effectively what this does is offer investors access to 3 Thai blue chip stocks. Number 1, CPO, number 2, Airports of Thailand, and number 3, PTTEP. I'll go into a bit more detail about what each of these companies do later. But just broadly, what you see is that they are across different industries and they are now available for trading on the Singapore Exchange. Your question is, how does this actually work? Why can we access these Thai stocks in the Singapore market? So effectively, how this works is that they are effectively underlying company shares, which are in the Thai stock exchange. Okay, so these are all very established and large companies that are trading on the Thai stock exchange. And what happens here is that we have got a SDR issuer, which is the issuer of the Singapore Depository Receipt, which will effectively take these shares which are listed in the Thai stock exchange, custodize it in the Thai market, and then subsequently on a one-on-one basis, actually issue the Singapore Depository Receipts in the Singapore market. So what this means is that if you are holding on to the Thai SDR, you will have a beneficial interest in the underlying shares of the company. Okay, so effectively what this means is that you will be able to get access to the dividends of the stock because of the fact that you are actually having a beneficial interest towards this underlying name. Okay, the other point to note is that it is convertible because remember, you do have the SDR issuer, which has actually got this underlying company shares that is sitting in Thailand. So if you actually choose to, you can actually request for the broker to then subsequently convert to the underlying non-voting depository receipts, which are sitting in Thailand. Okay, so in a very simplified manner, this is actually what the Singapore depository receipts are. And what this means is that it allows us certain benefits. And what are these benefits? So in terms of what it actually offers is that it allows us to invest in overseas listed companies through the Singapore Exchange. So if you already have a broker like Philips that access the Singapore market, then you don't actually have to open up another account just to be able to trade these Thai stocks. Okay, and because of this, there is a certain cost simplification because of the fact that you will just be paying your usual brokerage charges relating to trading Singapore stocks rather than having the brokerage charge that relates to trading in Thai stocks. So hopefully this will bring about more convenience because of the fact that you can now access this Thai Singapore depository receipts in the same way that you might already be investing in some of the Singapore stocks or Singapore REITs. The other point to take note is that this Singapore depository receipts are custodized with the central depository receipt in Singapore. So effectively what this means is that you are then able to get a safe and secure way to be able to access these Thai blue chip stocks. Okay, so this is a brief introduction about what Singapore depository receipts are. Just one additional point to note is that the other difference versus the ownership of the stock in the Thai market is that you will not have voting rights as a shareholder. Because these are effectively allowing you the beneficial interest. So while you may be able to get the dividend payout, you are able to benefit when the share price of these Thai companies go up. The only thing that it will not offer you is the ability to be able to vote during their AGM or during EGM. Okay, so that is one important point to take note of relating to this Singapore depository receipts. Okay, so after having gone through the introduction about what Thai SDRs are, your next question will probably be why bother looking at Thailand? Or in any case, why even look at markets outside of Malaysia? Okay, so first and foremost, if we look at why there's been a lot of interest in ASEAN, that is really because of the fact that the economies around us are expected to grow at a much faster pace compared to other parts of the world. Okay, so for example, if you look at the US economy, so maybe if you trade US stocks, you have heard a lot of concerns about a global recession, about the US recession because of the fact that the interest rates are now very high in the US. So if you look at the forecast for GDP growth in US this year, it is just at about 1.6%. If you look at advanced economies as a whole, it is at 1.3%. So other advanced economies such as in Germany, in other parts of Europe, they are even faring worse. So you probably have seen the news that Germany has entered a technical recession after 2 quarters of GDP decline. And likewise, the Euro area also went into a recession. So this makes ASEAN stand out as a region where the growth is still very strong in 2023 because of the reopening that we are seeing in these markets. So ASEAN, the key 5 economies are expected to grow at 4.5% this year, which is significantly above the advanced economies, including the US, as well as global GDP growth. Okay, if we were to look exactly into the Thai market, then what we see is that the GDP growth has recovered very strongly from COVID. If you look at 2020, it suffered very significantly. So the GDP actually contracted by 6%, which is quite significant compared to most other economies. But in 2021, we started to see a gradual recovery. And in 2022, the growth momentum continued. And likewise, that extended into the first quarter of 2023. So we are seeing a very strong recovery after COVID. And what is that actually driven by? Okay, a big part of it is really driven by the Thai tourism sector. I'm not sure how many of you have been to Thailand for a holiday over the past few months. But what you have probably realized is that there are a lot of tourists around. Okay, that is because tourism represents about 12% of the Thai GDP, and this is significantly above a lot of the other economies. So for a lot of the other places that people like to visit, so maybe South Korea, actually tourism is just about 3% of the Korean economy. If you look at Japan, which is also another country that a lot of people like to visit, tourism is just about 7% of the GDP. So very few places actually have tourism representing such a big part of the economy, and Thailand at 12% definitely stands out. Okay, so because of this, it has benefited from the reopening, and likewise, that has been reflected in the very strong GDP growth numbers that we saw earlier. Okay, so how is that expected to go for the rest of this year. So if we were to look at the tourist arrivals into Thailand, in 2020, we saw a very sharp fall. In 2019, about 40 million tourists go to Thailand on an annual basis. By 2020, that came down to 7 million because it was still able to get a decent traffic in the month of January and February. But by the time we got to 2022, where most of the country was still not reopened to the international tourists, then there were only 400,000 tourists that went into Thailand in 2021. With the reopening that we saw from the middle of last year, we have started to see a slight recovery to 11 million. And this year, what the government actually expects is that we will see 30 million tourists arriving into Thailand, which is still about 30% below where it was in 2019. Okay, so a very sharp V-shaped recovery, but still not as high as what we saw prior to COVID. Okay, so how does that actually present opportunities for us? Because for investors, we are always looking out for investment opportunities. So the question is, how can we position and think about investment opportunities provided by this reopening? Okay, so this is where we go into this discussion about Thai blue chip stocks. And for the next 30 minutes or so, since it's a Friday and you're listening to this webinar from your home, I want you to come with me on a short trip to Thailand. Even if you are sitting at home in front of your computer screen or TV, just pretend that you'll be in Bangkok for the next 30 minutes as we will explore some of these companies that are very big in the Thai market. Okay, so the first name that we'll talk about is Airports of Thailand, because of the fact that once you arrive in Thailand, you probably land at one of their airports. And that is why we want to start looking at Airports of Thailand. Okay, so it trades under the stock code TATD on the Singapore Exchange. Okay, so what is important to know is that Airports of Thailand, through the airport that it operates, actually account for over 80% of the Thai air traffic. So having landed in Thailand, you probably come across the airport, Suvarnabhumi Airport, as the first thing that you will see. And that is actually an airport that is operated by AOT. Okay, so that is probably your first point of contact with this company that has got a very significant share in the Thai market. Okay, but even if you don't land in Suvarnabhumi Airport, maybe you take a budget airline and you land at the other airport, Dom Mueang International Airport, that is operated by AOT as well. If you decide not to go to Bangkok, but you go to other places like Phuket or Chiang Mai or Chiang Rai, then those are actually operated by Airports of Thailand as well. So while there are close to 40 airports in Thailand, by operating 6 key airports, including the Suvarnabhumi Airport, it actually has got a majority share in the overall Thai air traffic. Okay, so what we see here is the passenger volume for Airports of Thailand, quite similar to what we saw for the overall tourist arrival numbers in Thailand. Because of the very strong market share it has, effectively what we see here will be a reflection of the Thai domestic as well as international travel numbers. Okay, so prior to COVID, you actually saw that it was able to carry quite a number of passengers on a monthly basis. And even with the very sharp recovery that we saw in 2023, it is still about 30% below where it was prior to COVID. So very similar to what we saw previously in the international tourist arrival numbers into Thailand. Okay, then your question will probably be, but the global economy has already reopened. We are fairly free to travel from one place to another. Why isn't the tourist arrival numbers back to the pre-COVID levels as yet? Okay, this is because China represents a very big part of Thai tourist arrivals at about 33%. So 1/3 of all tourists who go into Thailand would be coming from China. And as we know, while we have seen the reopening of Chinese borders, the Chinese tourists are definitely not in full force traveling as yet. This might be because of controls on the issuance of visa and various other reasons, but definitely we have not seen a full recovery in Chinese tourists as yet. So this could potentially be something to look out for that will drive a further recovery in the tourist arrivals into Thailand, as well as further growth in airports of Thailand passenger traffic numbers. Okay, so as investors, we are always very concerned about how does this trend reflect in the revenue, in the profit that the company is able to make. So what we see here is that if I were to look at where Airports of Thailand derives its revenue from, a significant portion of the revenue comes through from this thing called the departure passenger service charges. Okay, and what this departure passenger service charge is that if you are flying through the airport, then they will effectively earn a fee by you actually departing from their airport. So in FY22, what we see is that this departure passenger service charge represent about 1/3 of AOT's revenue. But recall that even in FY22, we have not seen a full recovery in the tourist arrival numbers as yet. So AOT has a September year end, and what we see here is that even with the slight improvement in the tourist arrival numbers, the departure passenger service charges is really representing close to 1/3 of their revenue. If the number of tourist arrivals continue to recover, then that continues to present potential upside to its revenue. Apart from this departure passenger service charges, some of the other ways that AOT is able to generate revenue include concession revenues. So for example, if you go to the airport, you will see F&B outlets, you will see duty-free stores. AOT is able to earn revenue from renting out these stores to the tenants at this airport as well. So this represents about 24% of the revenue. So what you see here is that a very big part of the revenue of AOT comes through from aviation-related services, as well as those that are tied to the airport. Okay. So what we see here is that we have definitely seen a recovery in AOT's revenue together with the pickup in passenger traffic. Okay. If you were to look at the revenue in the first half of FY22, it was just at about 5.7 billion baht. By the first half of FY 2023, this is the 6 months ending March 2023, the revenue has grown to close to 20 billion Thai baht. Okay, so that is a very significant pickup just within the span of a year. If you were to look at the profit, AOT was able to generate a profit of about 2 billion Thai baht in the first half of FY 2023, and that will effectively reverse the loss that we saw in the previous 2 years. So this improvement in air traffic, this pickup in tourist arrivals that we see has definitely been reflected in the revenue as well as the profit that AOT is able to make. Okay, so we have started with AOT and we have looked at what are its revenue drivers and how the company's recent performance is. So next we are going to be looking at another depository receipt, which is CPO. So after you land in Thailand, you have arrived at the airport, you go to the city center, do a bit of sightseeing, but because it's very hot, you'll probably want to be buying a drink or some food to eat. You'll probably end up in one of the 7-Eleven stores since they are everywhere. And this will be something that is operated by CPO, which is the largest operator of convenience store in the Thai market. Okay. So what we see here is that CPO has a very dominant market share in convenience stores, and this because it has the rights to the 7-Eleven brand in the Thai market. So altogether, it operates about 14,000 of such convenience stores. 7,000 of it are stores that it operates by themselves, and another 7,000 will be through a franchise model. So in total, about 14,000 stores in Thailand. What we see is that just the 7-Eleven brand itself, that will represent about 41% of the market share of the entire convenience store market in Thailand. So it is the biggest chain of convenience stores, and it will be operated by CPO. Okay. The other point to note is that CPO has been making various acquisitions in the past few years, and this would have allowed it to grow another brand, which is called Lotus Go Fresh. Lotus Go Fresh has a 28% market share in the convenience store market in Thailand. And together, when we combine all of this, what this means is that CPO has a market share of about 70% in the entire Thai convenience store market. Okay, so another company that has got a very strong market position within the Thai consumer market. Okay, so we have seen the GDP growth numbers earlier. We have seen the improvement in tourist arrival numbers. Your other question will probably be, how have the retail sector actually done in Thailand? Okay, so what we see here is that likewise, there's been a very strong recovery in the retail sales, particularly for convenience stores. So in 2020, we saw the decline because of COVID. The locals were not going out as much because of the lockdown. So number one, there was less locals who were going to these convenience stores. Number two, because there were very few tourists, so that also affected the demand for the goods that were sold in these convenience stores. But by 2022, as the local economy started to reopen, people started going back to work. We started to see a pickup in the retail sales for convenience stores. And when the economy further opened up to tourists in the second half of 2022, we saw a further increase in the retail sales. Okay, so these numbers are fairly strong. If I were to look at the double-digit growth that happened in the third quarter of last year, the 8% in the fourth quarter of last year, it would show that the retail sales is actually improving very significantly. Okay, so if you are looking at a company that is in the retail space, what are some of the key drivers that we can track? First and foremost, we definitely want the company to be able to open up more stores, because if it has more stores, it's probably going to generate more revenue if the revenue per store remains the same. Okay, so what we see here is that CPO has been able to consistently open about 700 stores per year. And this has been a consistent number over the past 5 years. Going into 2023, CPO continued on the momentum, opening up about 209 stores in the first quarter of this year. And that would reflect that it is probably on track to open up another 700 stores this year. The other thing that we can track these retail companies will be how much revenue it is able to generate per store. Because not only do we want the company to open up more stores, but being able to generate more revenue for each of these stores. So what we see here is that in 2020, 2021, with the fall in retail sales, the average daily revenue per store came down. But by 2022, with the reopening, with the influx of tourists, the revenue per store is now higher than what it was in 2020. But even then, it's still below the 2019 levels. And likewise, when we look at the first quarter of this year, while it's picked up from further from 2022, it is still below the 2019 levels. So that is once again very dependent on the further recovery in tourist arrivals, because that will effectively allow more tourists to come into these convenience stores and increase the daily revenue per store. Okay, so if you look at the breakdown of CPO's revenue, about 41% of revenue will come through from convenience stores, which is effectively the 7-Eleven stores that we shared earlier. But outside of convenience store, CPO is also in other retail formats. So for example, in the wholesale market, it will operate some of the larger concept stores where if you want to buy potentially some furniture, some electrical equipment, then you can go to these wholesale stores and be able to purchase them. CPO also operates what we call retail stores, and those will be the grocery stores that you might be familiar with. So what we look at in terms of its portfolio is that it will be split between the convenience stores, the wholesale stores, as well as the retail stores, and together they'll make up about 90% of CPO's revenue. So likewise, if you look at the revenue and profit breakdown, what we see here is that CPO has been able to consistently grow its revenue even in 2021 and 2022. So part of it is because of the fact that the retail segment is more resilient compared to the tourist segment, because of the fact that you will still have the locals who are buying from the convenience stores, who are buying from some of these grocery stores. The other factor is that CPO has been making several acquisitions over the last few years and to be able to diversify its portfolio. So what we see here in terms of the profit is that while CPO has been able to grow its revenue, the profit did not grow in line with the revenue growth. And this because of the fact that it had to incur higher financing costs for these acquisitions. So the profit came down in 2021 and 2022, partly because of this higher financing cost. But if you look at the first quarter of 2023, then what we have seen is that the company has been able to grow the profit once again as the merger is completed and is able to reap the benefits from these acquisitions. Okay, so I have effectively gone through 2 of the 3 Thai blue chip companies. I do see some questions that are coming in. So if you've got any questions, do feel free to put it into the question box, and I'll be happy to answer some of your questions during today's session. Okay. So lastly, we'll talk about this company, PTTEP. So having landed at the airport, having done your sightseeing, having gone into the convenience store to pick up a bottle of water, and having done your sightseeing for the entire day, you probably want to go back to your hotel for a rest. And what you want to do is maybe take a Grab ride back to your hotel. So where does the oil that actually go into your Grab ride actually come from? And this is probably oil that is explored and produced by PTTEP, which is one of the largest oil and gas companies in the whole of Southeast Asia. So this was traded under the stock code TPED in the Singapore Exchange. Okay, so if you are not familiar with oil and gas companies, what we do here is try to give a very quick breakdown around where it's able to generate its revenue. So very straightforward here, the more oil it is able to produce and sell, the more revenue it is able to generate. Okay, so if you were to look at the sales by product type, about 73% of the sales come through from gas, about 27% coming through from liquid, which is oil. Okay, so where does PTTEP actually sell this oil and gas? Thailand would be one of the key markets, representing about 60% of its revenue. And then we've got other parts of Southeast Asia. This represents about 21%. And the rest of the world, which will likely be places such as the Middle East and Africa. Okay, so if you look at where are PTTEP's assets, a big part of the assets are located in Thailand. So that represents about half of its book value of assets. It also has got oil and gas fields in other parts of Southeast Asia. And then we are looking at other geographies such as Africa and Middle East in terms of where these oil and gas assets are actually sitting at. Okay, so what I wanted to show with this next slide is the importance of PTTEP to the entire Thai economy. if it's a look at the breakdown of the domestic production volume of Thailand, then PTTEP is actually the largest domestic producer, producing about 60% of all production in Thailand. Okay, you've got some of the other names like Petronas that you might be familiar with, Chevron, but what we see here is that within the oil and gas sector, PTTEP plays a very important role. Okay, so if we're to analyze oil and gas companies, what we are interested in would be how much is able to sell the oil and gas and what is its cost of producing the oil and gas. Okay, what we see here is that in terms of the average selling price, it has been able to see a higher average selling price over the last 2 years, and the average selling price will be at about $53 per barrel of energy in 2022. Okay, this is significantly higher than what it was in 2020 and 2021 because oil prices have gone up over the last 2 years. So what we will do next is to compare it to its cost of production. And what we see here is that the cost of production for PTTEP is fairly low. Okay, in 2020, it was at about $30 per barrel of energy. But by 2022, it was able to bring it down to about $28 per barrel of energy. So effectively, by being able to sell the energy at $53 and versus its unit cost, this is the oil cost effectively at $28, it is able to make a profit from the difference. Okay, so for oil and gas companies, we are naturally very interested in whether it has got sufficient reserves, because we don't want to buy the oil and gas company where, yes, it's able to benefit from the higher oil prices, but its oil actually run out in 1 or 2 years' time. Okay, so what we see here is the proved and probable reserves of PTTEP. Okay, so proved reserves are effectively reserves that are proven to be there, and that would amount to about 7 years in 2022. Okay, so effectively what this means is that in terms of reserves that are shown to be already there, PTTEP has got sufficient reserves for the next 7 years, even if it doesn't do any further exploration work. Okay, we also have got reserves that are seen as probable. So these are not 100% as yet, but based on the different estimates, based on its drilling activity, it is highly likely that there are reserves in these fields. If we add both the proved as well as the probable reserves, the amount of reserves that PTTEP is about 11 years. Okay, so what this means is that it provides some degree of visibility in terms of how the energy reserves of PTTEP will be there. Of course, the company will continue to explore, and that is what we saw over the last 2 years, where it was able to grow the proved as well as probable reserves that it is able to have in its portfolio. Okay, so I've covered the 3 Thai SDRs, including sharing what are some of the financial highlights as well as reasons we look at these companies. So definitely for investing, it will come with risks. And the questions would be, what are the risks involved in investing in Thai SDR? So one of the key factors would definitely be foreign currency exchange risk, because of the fact that we have seen, say, the Singapore dollar strengthening against the Thai baht, and because the SDRs trade in Singapore dollar. So if the Singapore dollar continues to strengthen against the Thai baht, what this means is that the underlying may not be that attractive. So this is something to take note of, given that the stock will be trading in Singapore dollars. Okay, so over the last 30 minutes, I've shared about SDR as a product. I've shared why to potentially look at these Thai blue chip companies. And effectively, the key summary that we can take away is that ASEAN is expected to grow faster than the rest of the world, and that puts us in a good position to look at different opportunities in this market that we are very close to. We may be very familiar with the Malaysian market, we may be very familiar with the Sing market, but the Thai economy is one that is expected to recover, particularly from the recovery in global travel. And what the Thai SDRs offer you will be the access to these Thai blue chip companies in a low cost as well as convenient way. Okay, so as a recap, Airports of Thailand, stock code TTD, that will effectively be a way to get exposure to the recovery in the Thai tourism sector. CPO, stock code TCPD, that will be for investors who are looking at structural growth in the Thai domestic consumption market, given its very strong market share in the convenience store sector. And last but not least, PTTEP, one of the largest oil and gas companies in Southeast Asia under the stock code TPED, and that is seen as a beneficiary of higher oil and gas prices. Okay, so with that, I will end my sharing. If you want more resources relating to SDRs, including a write-up on these companies that I mentioned, feel free to visit our website, growbeansprout.com. We have a Telegram group as well, so if you've got any further questions after this that you suddenly recall, feel free to ask. And also more relating to the SDR product on the SGX website. Okay, so with this, I'll start to take some of the questions that I've started to see coming in. So once again, if you've got any questions, please put it into the Q&A, and then we will be happy to answer them over the next 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so I see one question. Is the political stability a concern for investing in Thailand? Okay, so I think for many parts of Southeast Asia, political stability is definitely something to keep a lookout for. And I think after the recent elections, that is something that a lot of investors are keeping a very close lookout for, because even until today, we have not seen who the Prime Minister is going to be, even though there are very strong indications around how things are going to pan out. So because of this, we have also seen that the Thai market has been one of the worst performing markets in the world, as well as within ASEAN, because the market does not like uncertainty. So because of this uncertainty around what the future political situation in Thailand is going to be, around how that will impact the economic growth outlook, whether there'll be any change in economic policy, we have seen that the Thai market has come down over the last few weeks. If we have signs that the political situation is improving, if there's an actual appointment of the Thai PM, if a strong coalition is formed, then that can potentially remove an overhang in the market. But if the situation remains unclear, and given that investors do not like the uncertainty, then that can continue to weigh on the entire Thai market. Okay, the next question. So thanks so much for this question about Thai tourism. Effectively, we have shared that it is one very big driver of the recovery, and also why there's a lot of optimism around the Thai market over the course of 2023. So what we see is that Thailand is very dependent on Chinese tourists. Okay, Chinese tourists would effectively account for close to 1/3 of all tourist arrivals in the Thai market, and this was back in 2019. Okay, if I were to compare that to other countries, there's probably very few other markets where you have got such a significant number of tourists actually coming through from from China. So just as an example, what we see is that in Singapore, in 2019, your tourists from China would represent about 20%, of all tourists into Singapore. So for Thailand, given that it is about 33%, that is a very significant number. And that is also why we have not seen the tourist arrival numbers in Thailand going back up to where it was prior to COVID as yet. Because remember, going back to the slide earlier, tourist arrivals into Thailand, even in 2023, is still about 20 to 30% below where it was in 2019. Okay, 2019 it was 40 million. This year the projection is 30 million. So still 20-30% below where it was. And the missing part of this puzzle is really because the Chinese tourists have not come back as yet. Okay, so don't be shy to ask your questions. Anything relating to Thailand, relating to how you're able to access this on the Singapore Exchange, product characteristics, feel free to ask them in the Q&A session.
Yeah,
Just
Jared,
by tapping in your...
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I have a question from my own. Is that okay to ask you for this
Yeah, sure, go
question?
ahead.
Yeah. Just my curious that I think every one of the investor is worried about some of the incoming recessions overall from US market, either from the currency of the US dollar. How do you think that actually Thai stock will perform, and is that a better way for us to having some protects for those investors themselves?
Okay, so I think what is unique about this cycle is that in the past, it is the US market that has done well, and it's always the emerging markets like Malaysia, Thailand, that investors would seem to be more risky and would avoid. But what we see as being very interesting this time round is that it is the advanced economies that are doing worse compared to the emerging economies. So if you look at the economies that are already in a recession, it is Germany, which is the fourth largest economy in the world and one of the most advanced. It is the Euro region, because partly of the Ukraine crisis. And then now the concern is about the US going into a recession. Okay, but if you look at the emerging markets, say Indonesia, Thailand, the growth is actually fairly resilient because of the fact that, number one, they are benefiting from the improvement in commodity prices, and also they have been able to benefit more from this reopening that we have seen over the last 12 months. So because of that, the emerging markets become something that investors are thinking could become more interesting as opposed to the advanced economies, because compared to, say, the Asian financial crisis, a lot of the challenges this time is in the developed markets. You have seen 3 banks in the US facing financial difficulties in US, but you have not heard of any major bank in ASEAN facing challenges this time round. So that once again does reflect that a lot of the challenges this round relate to the advanced economies. But for investors who want to take a more defensive positioning towards investing because of the market uncertainty, then we can potentially look for some of the more defensive names. So for example, across the 3 names that I shared earlier, if I don't want a very cyclical sector like oil and gas, because I think that maybe oil prices will go down to $60 per barrel if there's going to be a recession. If I don't want something that's very determined by tourist arrivals, then the consumer sector could be seen to be more resilient, because regardless of a recession, people will still go and buy their groceries, people will still go and buy things from the convenience store. So that could be seen as something that's more resilient compared to the more cyclical sectors. But outside of this Thai blue chip stocks, we can also look for high dividend yield names. But what we need to make sure is that the dividend yield is sustainable. the company has got a strong net cash position, would have significantly higher interest expense with the increase in interest rate. And what we are able to do is then earn a good dividend income while waiting for the recession to be over.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your answering. I think it is shared in a very wide range of the economic views, and I think it's really good content providing to all of our audience from there. Yeah, so is there any, to all the audience, is there any extra question you would like to ask for our speakers? You're able to click on the question marks of symbol, then afterwards you were able to find the place for you to type the question on the question box. Okay. If I think if like there's no other extra questions, or maybe like you have to trying to digest first after receiving a lot of information from our speaker, then maybe feel free for your, because after these recording sessions we'll also post it on our YouTube so that you can go back and record it and replay it from those informations for your to having or assist on all of your investment decisions to save. Okay. Also, yeah, I saw a question there. Is what is your thoughts on BRICS?
Okay, so because this is something that is more focused on Thailand, more focused on the Singapore market, so I shall not go into detailed discussion about BRICS, but I think maybe I'll just talk about one particular market, which is China. That's something that investors have always been very concerned about. We started to see a very strong recovery after the reopening announced in late 2022. But because some of the improvement in economic growth has not come through as strongly in the last few months, so that has started to drive a lot of investor concerns about the economic situation in China once again. And then on top of that, you have actually got the concerns about rising US-China tensions. So that is causing the Chinese market to have not done as well as some other markets over the past few months. If you want to see a more significant improvement in the Chinese market, then we will potentially need to see a further improvement in the Chinese economic data, as well as some resolvement in the US-China trade tensions.
Yeah, I think yeah, just answer well on this. And is there any extra questions? Because due to time constraints, this meeting should be ended on 8:30. So yeah, if you have any question, yeah, keep your chance to having the direct conversation with our speaker here. Yeah. Okay. While waiting, I think I'll proceed a little bit of the informations from the promotions that Philips Capital is holding. If you have questions, feel free to type on it, and so that I try to pass it on me. Yeah, okay. So basically, first, sure, we have to really thank you for the sharings from Gerard on the very insightful of the ideas on the Thailand's markets, and also like the three companies that has been producing and give us a very big picture, or as it say, is a trip to Bangkok with our speakers at the past 30 minutes. Yeah, then I believe everyone have your big pictures, and even though before this Thailand is not you never consider it, but I believe after this of the sessions, then you're giving a big pictures on these emerging markets currently, especially when from those your states developed countries of their economic situations. Okay, so a little bit of sharings on our Philips Capitals of the promotions that currently helps on is that discover and trade the Singapore stocks with iPad Pro and more. Okay, so as the seats of the Thailand market, if you're interested, Philips do provided the trades the Singapore stocks, which is the SGX, And with this SDR, you're able to access Thailand market as well with Philip Capitals. Okay, and you're having the chance to winnings for these prizes if you are currently trading with it. And other than these Singapore stocks of the iPad Pro, Philips as well having the promotion of trade and earn with Philips, which you have the chance to win or earns up the 1,500 of Touch and Go reload pins and some of the lucky draw prizes from here. Okay, you can see it's the iPad, iPods, out of is the Apple Watch. Okay, so if like you are interested and you are keen to having this kind of very useful of the seminars and webinars so that you have stand a chance to having some conversations, asking Q&A sessions with the speakers, feel free to scan these QR codes where Philip Capitals will constantly bring out more and more seminars and webinars, follow-ups with those markets news, which is the hot topics, and we'll invite those speakers to share with you all. Okay, so if you are interested to open an account with us, feel free to scan this QR code. Okay, so yeah, for some of the heads up on the trading platforms that we are using, that is Flip Nova, which we are providing free trading platform for all of our clients. That's which involving over 90 of technical indicators, buy sell directly from the charts, market depth trading tools, access local and foreign products, and live market news. Okay, so the other one will be the CFD trader. If you are familiar with CFD, yeah, you can feel free to ask us, or if you wish to look for more info, feel free to come to us. We are having the CFD trader platforms for you to trade some stocks with the CFD, which is the contract of difference. Okay, so if you have any questions after this and you wish to reach or like you wish to having the recording sessions with us, feel free to contact us at these different branches, at your nearby branches. You can just call, or you can walk in, or you can send email to us. Okay, so you're able to reach us from here. This is our contact. And if you having your social media as well, yeah, you can feel free to having to our Facebook page, our Instagrams, or our official websites. Okay, so I think there is no extra questions from here. So yeah, I think this will be the end for today's sharings. Thank you very much for Gerard for your insightful sharings and providing a lot of the information for all of our audience.
Thanks everyone. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Bye.